Not a whole lot going here. We're just procrastinating.
Yeah, taking up band space, just hanging out. Band is quiet, so it's a good night to be on. Not much in the way of static crashes. No sidebanders like I listened briefly after getting home from Nearfest on Saturday night, and it was wall-to-wall, wall-to-wall Pennsylvania QSO party on sideband all throughout the AM window. So, yeah, it was noisy. So the radio got turned off.
Yeah, I like working 20 meters when the band's good, and the band is good, but it does get, nobody ever wants to talk on 20 meters. They just want to make the contact. Haven't quite figured that one out yet, but and the contesting just not my bag. So anyway, this is more my speed when the band has been lousy at night. So I typically haven't had time on 75 phone, but you're right, it is good tonight.
Yeah, very good, Roger. Yeah, when you said you were listening on 20, I kind of said to myself, man, what is there to listen to other than guys saying, oh, you're 5'9", good luck in the contest, or the working conditions here are 7.3 OM.
Yeah, that's about it.
Which is great, I guess, if you're into that. I mean, many years ago, I did DXing and stuff like that, but I was never into collecting cards and all of that kind of stuff. Had the big 5-element beam up on the roof tower, and it was fun, but, then it got old. And now I just get on here once in a while and talk to my buddies and anybody else who stops by.
Yeah, I hear you. I've never worked AM on 20 meters. Is there much action going on there?
I don't know. I'd never go to 20 meters. I believe, there is a frequency that's used. What is it? 14.243, something like that, I think. But there is a so-called AM frequency. But, how much it's actually used, I don't know. Certainly never used by me.
Yeah, me either, but I was thinking, maybe I'd dial up the 368 up to 20 meters and see what was happening.
There's not much going on there.
Yeah, well, your T3's got a big signal. I sold mine off a few years back. And haven't heard it on the air yet. Sold it to an AMer, and it's not on the air. So don't know if we'll ever hear it. But yeah, I had a nice one. I think it was an E model, and it was built by Bendix in 1959, if I'm remembering the nomenclature tag. And it had been through one of the depots for reconditioning, so it was in really nice shape. It didn't need to be repainted or anything like that. It was just in nice shape. And I kind of miss that transmitter, but, I don't know. Big, heavy, and, in between I moved. So I sold off several large items, and that was one of them. So, and it was easy at the place I was in southern New Hampshire. It was basically a walk-in basement, It was easy to roll that transmitter, which had casters on the bottom of it. Just roll it in from the driveway through the garage and into the basement. But this place a little different. Got to go down a few steps to get into the basement. And T3s, well, they do come apart. That power supply section and the modulator section, man, I'm sure you know, they're not light.
I don't think you'll ever hear that thing on the air.
Didn't that go down to the guy in Philly? I forget his call.
No, mine went up to upstate New York. I bought it from many years ago, 30 years ago, from WD2AFJ, Ray, down there. I think he's on the Jersey side of the border, though. Ray, WD2AFJ, 30 years ago.
Well, you described my T3 to a T. Mine is an E version, built by Bendix, went through a depot in Germany, and I don't think was ever put back in service based on the condition it's in. It's like new. No paint. All the serialized parts fit. They all match. It's a good transmitter. Also has the framework with the casters on it. And you're right. I had a moving company bring it in the basement. We have about 5 or 6 steps to get into the basement. Now, there was no way. I mean, I took it apart, but they brought the pieces in.
Yeah, very good. Well, I know mine was refurbed at one of the depots in the States, because it had the depot tag on it somewhere, and possibly on the inside also. Did you do anything with the blower? The big blower? I totally disabled that. In fact, I think I took it out, and I just put a decent-sized muffin fan back there for air, because the built-in blower is ridiculously loud. And, for intermittent ham use, the oversized muffin fan, it was bigger than the standard muffin fan. That cooled it plenty much. And, of course, the final tube has its own built-in blower, blowing, the underneath of the final tube, the 4400, and blows it up through the tube socket. And that's a separate fan.
Yeah, I took the fan and stored it in the back section of my basement. I don't use that thing. That's like having a jet engine in there. I just let the final blower do its job. The rest of it, I don't know. It doesn't really need to be cooled. I put solid-state rectifiers in. I've been using this thing with just the final blower forever, and I've never had a problem.
Yeah, very good. Well, they're built like a tank. And, yeah, you probably could just get by with just convective cooling, instead of having the blower. Any blower. I just had the oversized muffin fan back there, and it did fine. You couldn't hear it. So, but, yeah, you probably could get by without it, because that thing was built to, they would operate those things on teletype 24/7, transmitting continuously. So... yeah, they were built like tanks. And over the years, I used different receivers with it. At one point, I had an R390A sitting on top of it, an SP600 another time, and I had a really nice McKay. What the hell was the model number? It's funny, I was talking about that at the Hamfest this weekend. A 300B, something like that, I think it was, with the tape and the Wadley loop tuning. That was a really nice receiver. I had that for a lot of years, that transmitter. But alas, I let it go, and like Bob said, we'll probably never hear it again.
Well, let's hope the guy that bought it's going to put it on the air. By the way, when I tell you I took that back blower off, I took the whole back panel off. So the thing runs with, there's no back on mine right now. So, it's up against the wall with the final blower running, but the entire back panel's off it.
Yeah, I couldn't exactly do that because I had it out in the open where I had it. It was next to a small Gates broadcast transmitter, which, by the way, went to the same person. And it's not on the air. But I had small kids, so I couldn't leave the back off. Going back 30 years, my kids were very, very, very young. In fact, 30 years ago, my youngest was just born. So I had 3 sons running around the basement, so I couldn't leave the back off. No way. But I could see how that would definitely, keep it cool enough for ham use. By the way, wonder if you did anything with the audio. You have tons of audio. In fact, you might be even hitting it a little hard. Wonder if you're running the stock speech amp, or if you modified it, or doing something completely different. A lot of guys mod transformer and, you know, put bigger modulator tubes in there, you know, pull out the, what are they, the 4125s? 5120? You know, the they put the 250s in, or 4400s, and use all kinds of external audio. Not sure what you're doing there, but you definitely have a ton of audio.
WA3YTN. Now, I'm going into the right into the line input in the back, and I'm driving that with a DBX286 processor, and I back that down a little bit. Is any better?
Yeah, I guess so. It's still plenty loud. I mean, you got tons of audio. Yeah, okay, so going in the line input, you're going right through the built-in, it still goes through the speech amp, I believe. I don't think it goes directly to the modulators.
No, it's going through the speech amp, and I didn't take out the there's a bandpass filter. I didn't do any of the mods. I wanted to keep it original. And it seems to be doing fine. The DBX is just so I could run it with a studio mic and have a little control over the amp, you know, the quality of the audio if I want, but I generally am just using it as a preamp.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I played with the audio over the years. I had a couple of extra speech amps that I had picked up along the way, various places. So, you know, one of them I modified by bypassing the filtering and the clipper. Oh, excuse me. And that worked pretty good. And then I also tried running through, bypassing the speech amp completely, feeding external audio through a backwards transformer directly to the modulator tubes. And that worked good too. But then I pretty much ended up putting it back to stock, you know. Just, you know, because they work so good. And, you know, you don't need hi-fi audio. It doesn't, you know, it's not what it was built for. And if you feed decent audio in, they can sound pretty good. So, yeah, they're fun to play with. I remember I used to, if I had to pull the modulator deck out quite a few times to do different things and whatnot. Oh, and by the way, I also replaced the rectifiers with those tall solid-state diodes. That's probably what you have in there. Plug right into the tube sockets. What I would do is I would put a big, you know, ice cooler with no ice in it, just empty, just below the modulator deck, so when I pulled that out, it would come out and sit right on that cooler, because, you know, God, I think that modulator's got to weigh 250 pounds. Might be exaggerating, but that's what it seemed like. It's probably not quite that, but power supply, forget it. Thankfully, I don't think I ever, you know, after I got it and put in the solid-state rectifiers, it was just built like a brick, never broke.
WA3YTN, yeah, you're right. The one audio change I did make, and this was a while ago, if I recall, they ran a 12AX7 at the input stage, and I dropped that down to a 12AU7, a little lower noise, a little less gain.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever made that change. It's over the 30 years, I got it working pretty much to where I wanted it, and I didn't mess with it too much. You know, after dicking with the audio and then pretty much putting it back to stock, I didn't mess with it much after that. Didn't have to. And that transmitter, you could have it on, say, 3885, turn it off, and come back a week later and turn it on, and man, you were right on the exact same frequency where you left it. No drifting. Just a great design.
That's Collins PTO. Did we lose, what did we lose? Bill or Bob? Who'd we leave out of this conversation?
Oh, I'm here. I'm just listening, guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, the number of watts per pound can't compare to the Class E rigs. That's Bob and I are both running Class E. He's running a different style Class E rig than I'm running, but the the watts per pound a tremendous difference between these rigs and the T368.
That's like Elon Musk calls it the idiot factor. Where, it's the cost of the finished product versus the cost as a ratio to the cost of the input material. And the higher that number, the higher the idiot factor.
And does that translate to higher priced vehicles?
No, but when he was doing, he's still doing the SpaceX, but when they were working on the Falcon 9 and the Falcon, what's the big one? The Falcon 20 or whatever the big one is with the 3 Falcon 9 strapped into it. They build most of those components inside. They're vertically integrated because, the cost of it, he couldn't justify the cost of aerospace components. He said, the requirements were made by idiots and they didn't mean anything.
Well, that's how they kept all those big contractors in business. Boeing, Lockheed Martin, all those big contractors supplying equipment to NASA. Look at Boeing with that SLS. What a disaster, that Starliner capsule. They found that they used insulation or tape over the wiring that turned out to be highly flammable. So they basically had to take the whole thing apart and redo it. Put all new tape over the wiring, which I think they're still in the process because they are so far behind schedule. It's ridiculous. So many false starts, so many problems. And you were thinking of what's called the Falcon Heavy. That's where they strap the 2 boosters to the center core. They just launched that the other day. They put up that Psyche satellite that's supposed to go and orbit around an asteroid that they think is made mostly of metal. So they think it might be an old inner core of a planet to be that never... Anyway, that just launched the other day, and the 2 outside boosters, they came back and landed those at the Cape, and the 3rd one was expended because they needed the extra boost to get that thing in. That's a big satellite. So to get it into the proper order, they had to expend the center core.
WA3YTN. Yeah, he's an amazing guy. As a matter of fact, I'm in the process of listening to that new biography. The Isaacson, I forget his first name, Paul Isaacson.